Hi Supreet, good morning.
Hey Amit, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How you been doing?
All good, man. All good. Thank you so much.
I've been reading about your LinkedIn posts, and I think quite recently you've been posting about your experiences of working with the new way of what do you say, building. Like everybody is now back to being a builder with this thing about vibe coding. And I myself have been exploring myself that okay, I did not had a software engineer career. I had mostly evolved as an analyst, data analyst, SQL, big data, AI, ML, that path. But it somehow gives you some magic, and it builds something. And it best part is that it works in first shot in somehow, right? So
Correct.
but at the same time you are somebody who has lived the other side of this, the traditional way, which has been the slow deliberate way, thinking properly, right, getting sign offs and then building it, right. There have been waterfall model, there have been your new agile model, but everything took time and it required a lot of expertise, a lot of coordination within people to build, right, those days. And then
Correct.
generative AI came in, and then coding tools came in, and
Correct.
suddenly there is the Twitter and LinkedIn is a buzz with everybody saying that okay, software engineers are dead,
Correct.
uh, right? And but I would like to understand your, because you have been practically experimenting with these things and you're seeing ground realities and you have also built things before. So I would like to first get a glimpse about your journey as a software engineer, as an entrepreneur, what you've been building, and what made you experiment with these tools, and what results do you see?
Okay. So first of all, I would say thanks a lot for having me here, Amit. I'm really looking forward to speak and to talk about this because speaking technology and talking about technology has always been a passion for me. So my career actually started when I joined Infosys back in 2006, I believe 2006, and I was with them only for 2.5 years, and I did not come from a computer science background. So for me, working with Infosys gave me the basics of the technical understanding of how you write code, what is a waterfall model, what is the agile model, all of that, and then that also gave me the opportunity to speak with some international customers within that 2.5 years. But then after spending 2.5 years there, I decided that coding is not for me. I don't want to do this, and I
Oh,
wanted a career change. Only after 2.5 years, I had decided that this is not something that I want to do. I want a career change, and then I quit everything. I didn't know what I'm supposed to do, but I quit everything. I came back to my hometown, and then started teaching in an engineering college.
okay.
Um, and for quite a while, actually, I taught in an engineering college for more than 3 years.
What subjects you computers related
I
to?
was because I graduated in electronics, so I was given responsibilities of teaching the electronics departments. But because I came from Infosys, the management also put me in the computer science classes.
Okay.
So it was everything from electronics to telemetrics to data structures to algorithms, whatever. Like
Hmm.
wherever there's no faculty, they used to put me in charge.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was quite a fantastic time period, honestly, because what happens is that when you are working with a company like Infosys, you are used to of working 15 hours a day. And
Yeah.
then when I went back to the college, what happened is that the college used to end at 3:30 in the afternoon. And
Yeah.
then once you are back home, like you have the second half of the day, which is like 6, 7 hours free. And then what do you do with that time? So initially, I started enjoying that time for a few days, but then after that, I started getting bored. And then
Hmm.
that's where I said, okay, let me put some use of my coding. And that's
Hmm.
where we started writing a product. Basically, because I was working within engineering college for so long, I saw that there's an opportunity of automating a lot of stuff that they are doing manually.
Hmm.
So what we did is I used that time after college to write a product for engineering college management's solution, and then we started selling that. And then
What's your
eventually
tech stack, if I could quickly get what?
that was done in, I don't know if you have even heard of it. It was a Microsoft. I have always been a Microsoft guy, right? I've
.NET
always
guy.
yeah, always been a C sharp .NET guy.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
my
yeah.
training happened in, like, Infosys trains you on a bunch of stuff, But
Right.
then after the training was done, my first project was in C Sharp and in .NET. And since then, I've always been C Sharp .NET guy. I
Yeah.
used to love a tech called Silverlight. I'm huge with UI stuff. So there was a tech called Silverlight. So I loved doing Silverlight stuff a lot. So then Microsoft came up with a tool called Light Switch. Light switch. Okay, so the first product that I built was built using this light switch, and light switch was a low code tool 15
Okay.
years ago from now. Okay,
Okay.
it required certain amount of coding, but it
Mm-hmm.
was low code tool. I don't think I'd ever seen any other low code tools back then except for light switch. Yeah, so the tech was light switch, and as I was saying, this was the first low code tool. It was not no code, it was low code. You could
Yeah.
still do a lot of coding and write custom
You could do this drag and drop
controls and
thing.
functions.
Drag and
Lot
drop.
of drag and drop, lot of predefined components available. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a tool that allowed you to write business application, line of business application super fast back in the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I fell in love with it. I was able to build a full-fledged product out of it while I was in college, and then I started selling that product to other colleges, and then that picked up, and then that's how my first company got created. And then I left the college because it became a full-time job of selling that product to a bunch of different engineering colleges in
Mm-hmm.
my state, MP and Chhattisgarh and nearby places. So then we did that for 3 years. And then we, at this point in time, from 2009 to 2012, we did that. In 2012, what happened is that we were a bunch of people, five, six people. By this time, we were doing this full time. We were still working from a garage like setup,
Mm-hmm.
rented room, no furniture, our own PCs, stuff like that. And
Nice.
then in 2012, we hit a stage wherein, doing the products and asking people to pay on time was not happening a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not working out. And then we said, okay, we have the skills now. We have a team now. Let's pivot and we'll do services instead for people who are ready to pay upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Because in product, what was happening is you have to deploy, you have to train, you have to make sure that the people are getting the
Yeah.
benefit out of it, and then you used to get the payment. So there was quite a lot of delay, and
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't afford that. So we then switched to being a service company, and that's how my services business Territas was born in 2012. And then we started finding customers on Upwork. Back in the time, it was called Odesk. So we started finding the customers on Upwork, and that's how the business actually started. And since then, we have been doing development for a lot of different companies. So that company that we started in 2012, the services company,
Right.
that became a Microsoft Gold partner. And then that is what we have been doing up until now, up until last few months. Now we
Mm-hmm.
are changing things and we are going shifting away from Microsoft and shifting towards AI in general rather than only being specific to Microsoft. So yeah, that has been the whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So if I try to contrast how you built before, say, right? So you needed team, you needed people with different skill sets. You wanted to scale things. You would need to add good people. You need to ensure people are rightly motivated every time, right? So there is definitely a lot of input goes into producing a quality output, like a good quality software or a product.
Correct.
And I think as an entrepreneur, as somebody who has built products and sold it, you would always want that new feature now,
Yes,
right? And
that's always the case.
always the case. You always have tons of features in your head, and you see that the customer is, and my developer asks that when do you want it? As a now, right? So
Yeah,
like, I have also tens of things going in parallel. So how do you say that, okay, there's a new thing, so let's reprioritize, let's meet. So many things happens, right?
that is
With
correct.
these new tools coming in, with everybody pushing, and I think the best use case of AI till now, which is really making money, is still code gen, which is coding generation, because it is really bringing that productivity improvement by what
Correct.
X, I don't know what number to put in,
Correct.
but it is definitely bringing, and there is some their results, and people are showcasing a lot of their work.
Correct.
Um, So I want to know that as a software engineer who has been in the business for 17, 18 years, how do you see this sudden new tool in your hands, and what could you build? How what's the feeling about it?
Well, as I said, I've always been a tech guy who not only historically stuck to the tools that I'm good with, or the frameworks or the languages that I'm good with. I've always had this keen interest of figuring out what is new in the market.
Yeah,
So when it was Silverlight, I was doing Silverlight. When it was Light Switch, nobody was using Light Switch. I was doing Light Switch. When Microsoft came up with their own phone system called Windows Phone, Mango, I don't think it was widely adopted, but I was the one who was coding apps on Mango. Then it was Xamarin. Then it was, and it has always been Microsoft, right? So,
mm,
when we started seeing this shift about 2 years ago, that we had Chat GPT 3.5 or 3, which one was that we got our hands on, and we were able to write very basic functions out of it. It started with the documents, of course, but after a few while you were able to write some basic code in it.
yeah,
Seeing that code being generated or written in front of you by machine was mesmerizing. I still remember the day that I tried it first time. I had my entire office came to my desk, and I was showing them that, see, this is the magic. It's going in such direction where I am just typing in English and I'm saying, give me a C sharp function that will do this. And it's a complex function, not 2 plus 2.
yeah, yeah,
It's a
yeah.
complex function that perhaps I would use in a production app. And it is able to spit that code out in front of me and in front of my entire team. And we were like, wow,
Mm,
wow. And that was, somewhere about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, not too long ago. I don't think it was more than 2 years ago. And since then, where we are now is we are able to write these entire applications on our own. I've always adopted it because that's how I've always loved adopting to the new tech. Even in being in charge of a tech company, I have this onus on me that if there is a new tech coming, I take this, that it's my responsibility, that I need to learn it. I
mm,
need to get my hands dirty with it. I need to get the nuances of it, and then help my team understand it, and then help my team adopt to it. And that's how the business works basically for us, right? So when co-pilots came, it was fantastic. When the Copilot chat came, it was fantastic. Then the Copilot chat became part of our IDEs, right?
mm, mm,
Visual Studio had it. Cursor came later on, but then Visual Studio Code had it, and then there were a bunch others. So the same thing was happening. It's just that rather than taking piece of code and taking it to Chat GPT and filling it with the rest of the
yeah,
context, that
yeah.
my application does this and this is what is happening and this is the function, help me fix this. I
Right.
now don't need to do that because the context was
And you
built in,
write in
because the
English.
chat was right there. So
Exactly.
that was definitely a fantastic move,
Appreciate.
and we started using that a lot because now the context is baked in. All you have to do is just select the function and ask it that I need to refactor it or I need to rewrite it, whatever you want to do with it. You don't
Mm,
need to fill in the context. It is aware of that context, and then the agents started coming in somewhere about last 6 months, wherein now you don't even have to write the code. You just actually tell it what you need to do, and then
yeah.
it writes the code. So I started experimenting with that a lot in tools like Cursor. Visual Studio has something called agent mode. It was in preview up until last few months, and then that was something that I was using, and I was encouraging my team members to use that a lot. Not everyone adopts to it
Mm,
till date. There are people who are a little skeptical of using these tools, even in my team. But I'm seeing that most of the people have been widely accepting it as the new norm. Okay.
mm,
And so yeah, when we started coding, I mean, vibe coding was not even a term
yeah,
4 6 months ago, right?
yeah, yeah.
but
People have.
but we were already doing it. We were writing the prompts in English, and we were getting the code written by the AI or by
Mm,
different models that we were using.
mm,
uh, at this time, what we started doing was that, because prompt engineering was already a thing, right? And I started experimenting with it, that if your prompts are correct,
mm,
then you can scope the output of
mm,
what it is going to generate. And if your prompts are generic, then
mm.
we very quickly notice that even the code that it is generating was quite, it would go left and right. It would do things you are not asking it
For
to
sure.
do
Yes.
because the prompt is generic.
Yes.
So we started toying with that a lot. And I think that experimentation in the early days
Mm,
helped me to a stage wherein I have been traditionally coding for more than 16, 17 years now. But I think that initial investment that we did in how to write proper prompt, how to contain the output of agents spitting
mm,
out the code,
mm,
helped me to a level wherein now we are comfortably able to vibe code, wherein we most of the time don't even look into the code.
mm,
But because we are technical people, we understand the code that it is being that is
mm,
being written by the AI.
mm.
So rather than going full vibe coding mode, me and my team adopt to something called a hybrid coding approach.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what is a hybrid coding approach? In our senses, we go vibe coding. We
Mm,
start with vibe coding,
mm,
but then we have a full control in terms of how the architecture is defined, how the
mm.
databases are defined, what tables are there, how the tables are related with each other, and what is the quality of the code that we want to write, what are the rules that we want the AI engine to keep in mind while spitting out the code for us.
Yeah.
This is something that we still give to the model that we are working with as an input, and then we vibe code on top of it.
So,
And
yeah. Sorry. Uh,
yeah,
if I cut you at this point, and when we are saying, okay, let's vibe code. So first
yeah,
hurdle you get is that suppose I have a running product platform, my own platform Enqurious, which is like we have running with customers going in, and it has been built the traditional way. Okay.
correct,
And the moment I go to the team and then say, hey guys, let's shift gears and let's vibe code the new things. Okay, they say no, it's very risky because what it's going to build, we're not sure. So how do you start this culture where when you say things are going from just writing the code to the point where you think well, document well, right? And the how better you have thought and documented and planned is kind of directly correlated with the speed at which you get the output and the accuracy of
correct,
the outcome.
correct.
So how has been that cultural shift and this thinking shift you've been able to bring?
Well, I would say that we did not initially, when we were doing when we were using this agentic mode
Hmm.
of hybrid approach, where we are using prompts in English, plain English, to write the
Yeah.
code. We were initially not doing it for existing code base because we were still figuring out how it all works.
Hmm.
But then when we saw that with the correct set of instructions, you are able to control it, and with the correct set of prompts you have a rather granular level of control in terms of what output is being created by the models. Then at this point in time we started working on our existing code base as well.
Hmm.
And a very simple approach that we took was that we, like how you do traditional, see, you mix your traditional understanding and knowledge with what is now available in terms of vibe coding and AI speed. So
Yeah.
what we did is we took a very traditional approach of branching out our code
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
we were doing in like how we do traditional coding. If you are writing a new feature, you don't write it in the main branch, you
Correct.
create a feature branch and you do stuff there, and then you test everything, and when it's
Correct.
all good, then you merge it, right? The same thing we did here. We created a branch of our main branch, we created a new branch out of it, and I gave liberty to all my team members, saying you play with it however
Ah,
you want to play with it. You
this
mess
branch should
that branch, it
completely
does
be
not matter. You mess it up, it doesn't matter. The only thing is don't merge it back,
done. True.
right? As long as you are not merging it back, it doesn't matter how much you are messing it up, because the more you mess it up, the more you are learning how to work with an existing code with AI speeds and with the AI tools of the,
Hmm.
what we are using today, like cursors and uh,
Hmm.
VS Code, Agent Mode, and even Visual Studio, whatever
Yeah.
tools
Yeah.
IDEs you are using.
Yeah.
You will have to give your developers that liberty, that it is okay for you to create code with this new available tech, which may not be useful, which
Mm.
may even disrupt your existing code, that is all right, but have it in a separate branch, have it in a separate source code
Mm. Do it in a
repo.
structured way. Figure it out.
Exactly.
Learn and
Exactly.
then maybe yeah.
So then what happens is that with time people start getting comfortable with it,
Mm.
and people also start developing their own rules along with it.
Mm.
Like how we came up with the idea that we create instructions.md file whenever we want to create a new project. We create an instructions.md file. It has all the rules, it has everything that we want it to be, and that comes from our traditional expertise and experience that we have been coding using for 15, 16 years. That
Mm.
we put in there high level, of course.
Mm.
And then we also ask the models that this is what we want to do, this is the rule set that you need to follow. Now
Mm.
what are your ideas, how can we do it better?
Mm.
Don't implement, just give me the ideas of how you will do it better. And
Mm.
the way I start with it is we start chatting first,
Mm.
rather
Mm.
than saying go ahead and implement this.
Mm.
Even if I have given it the instructions in instructions.md file, I will not go ahead and say that okay, this is what we want to build, go ahead and build it. No, what
Mm.
I'll say, this is what we want to build, these are the rule set, what do you suggest we take, what is the plan of action, give me a plan of action.
Mm.
And most often than not the AI will give you a written point plan of action.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then another pro tip here is, what I do is I also save that plan of action in one more file, so that what happens is that even if you lose context in the chat, and if you start a new chat, or if you start a new
Can give the
instance of the agent
mm.
that is not aware of what has been done previously,
Yes.
you still have that plans document to follow that AI had, and that
Yeah.
you and AI had written together. And you
Use
can say
that as
that
a
go back, check that checklist.
mm.
We have already done some parts which are checked.
Mm.
Start with the next unchecked item and start from there, but read it from the start.
Mm.
So now
Mm.
that context is again back in the new instance of the agent,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
these are some of the things that my team came up with when we started working a lot with these new approaches.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. Interesting. So, Supreet, I think it's pretty interesting to learn that the how does the expertise of the engineers comes into picture. So, I have a curious question here that everybody who has talked about the value of whiteboard or the what change it brings has lived the previous life. Okay. And hence they have been able to appreciate it, that what value it is able to bring. But they have also been able to be, they have been they have set the guardrails, they have set the right. For example, you mentioned that it shouldn't deviate from its plan, right? It generates tons of code, but that code of is generating, it should be aligning to what is. So this art of building your entire prompt template, which that instructions.md, which feeds into this one, right? So how do you see the team composition now? So, and especially I'm concerned with, because I'm in the upskilling space, about the fresh talent which comes into come in, and they have been say, "Jao vibe code karo," and they have no context or no experience of say what they've been building. So, how do you see this team composition happening, where in the end we build something which is scalable and which works for customers, a business ready application?
Team composition now, Amit, is a single person. Everybody is a team.
Okay.
I would right now, initially, when a team is starting with something like Vibe, see, when you are starting with AI assisted code, yes, the teams are still in place. You
Hmm.
are working on an enterprise apps, yes, you have to have a team. I'm not going to say that, brush it all off and
Yeah.
leave, ask everybody to leave and just
Yes.
have one guy who will vibe code. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
enterprise apps requires engineers. They still need a careful manual editing of software, writing of software piece by piece.
Hmm.
But it can be AI assisted.
Hmm.
But I want to take a pause here and I want to differentiate that is different than writing new software.
Hmm.
Right? If you have an existing product that is your own, for example, your platform Enqurious, right?
Right.
You can still branch it out. You can still vibe code with it. You can still do the AI assisted coding with it, and you will figure out which one works the best for you. Perhaps a combination of both. AI
Mm,
assisted as well as vibe coding is something that will work for you.
mm,
That is what but if you are working with a customer who is an enterprise, for example, my services company works with a lot of enterprise customers. We are working with huge names.
mm,
We can't go ahead and start vibe coding for
mm,
them. We can't
mm,
do that.
mm.
Their AI assisted coding, what is helps a lot more than vibe coding, where we are not even looking at the code a lot. Here the in AI assisted coding, what happens is that you are still coming from the code perspective. You have an existing code, you have existing classes,
Yeah,
infrastructure,
yeah,
you know how it is all set up,
yeah.
and you are asking the AI to do one small change at
Mm,
one small file, bit
mm,
by bit you are building,
mm,
right?
mm,
That is
mm,
AI assisted coding. When it comes to vibe coding,
mm,
here there are cases where you can use vibe coding. For example, if you are using internal apps, go ahead, do the vibe coding.
mm,
Even if you are doing customer apps which are MVPs,
mm.
go ahead, and I would suggest do vibe coding. I would never, now I don't start with traditional way of coding.
Yeah,
Just that I will still tell it that this is how to structure it. This is
right.
how the technical architecture
Mm,
is going to be. This is how the database is going to be. These are
mm,
the rules that will follow. But I will not now go ahead and start writing my code manually ever. I just feel that, like, it's a waste of time for me now,
that's very clear. Yes.
right? So now team composition is one person, and how it happens, if depending upon where you are coming from, if you are doing these new products, MVP products, small
Mm,
scale products,
mm,
the version ones of something that you want to try, internal products, 1% team is sufficient, and it does not matter whether they are designers or QAs or developers. In my team, I am teaching everybody, I'm asking everybody to start learning tools like Replit and Lovable, even if they are HR professionals. It
mm.
doesn't matter, right?
Interesting. Mm,
Wherein the developers, we are asking them not only to learn tools like Replit and Lovable, but also get very good hands-on with tools like Cursor, tools like Windsurf, VS with Agent Mode, Visual Studio with Agent, all of that, which are
mm,
AI-assisted programming. And
mm,
there also you can vibe code in a way wherein you are writing it in English and saying that, this is what I need. But the approach changes.
mm,
The top to bottom approach of how you are working with an enterprise code or existing code versus how you are writing a new app, the overall approach changes. For example, just to give you an example, if I have a team, if I am hiring a fresher, and if
mm,
I want to train them on vibe coding, here
mm,
is what I will tell them. My 5 point instruction would be: go ahead and get figure out a job from, I posted this in LinkedIn very recently, and I'll just go through the same steps again. First, go to a platform like Upwork.
mm.
Find what people are asking for.
Right.
Specifically, look for projects which are where people are asking for version ones or MVPs, and which are web applications.
Mm,
Okay, pick that JD, job description, up of what they want to do. Now go back to Replit or Lovable or whatever tool you want to use. Go there and tell it that, this is what I want to build, but only build me all the screens with dummy data.
mm.
Do not write any APIs, do not write any code, do not do any database, nothing. That would be my second step.
Even
Just
traditionally,
build the prototype.
even
Even
traditionally,
traditionally, we have been doing that, right?
yes.
So the mistake that I see a lot of people, if you tell somebody to go ahead and vibe code, what they see is that, okay, there is this AI magic box. Now I can ask it to do whatever I want to do it, and it will just do it for me.
Yeah.
Perhaps it will still do it for you, but you'll not have a rather greater granular control on what the output is. And if you want to have the granular output, you still take the traditional approach of first asking it, treat it as a junior developer, and who is
Yes.
just very smart, who is just very intelligent, who is able to absorb new details, new documentation at unprecedented speeds.
Yeah.
And then you still give it instructions one by one. Ask it to prototype with dummy data,
Mm,
reiterate on the prototype until you are happy with it.
mm,
Keep pushing it to the GitHub,
mm,
right? Keep creating your own milestones. Tools like Replit, they manage their own commits, so you don't have to. But
mm,
I still link it with my GitHub library, and I still do, once in a while, I still do a push to GitHub with my own comments.
Yeah, yeah,
That way, what happens is that because let's say I'm building something with Replit will do 10 commits on its own, and it will name those commits on its own automatically.
yeah,
Now, if I want to roll back, it's very difficult for me to identify which is the
yeah.
commit that I want to roll back on because I have not created those commits.
Have
It
you
got
weren't
created
aware of
automatically.
that? Hmm.
So that is where whenever I hit a milestone, I do a manual commit with my own comment, with my own signature, that
Hmm.
I know I can look back in the history and identify, okay, this is created by me. This is where I want to roll back to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
So then you
putting
do the UI.
own points, checkpoints that okay, if any
Yes.
case, I'll roll back to this.
Exactly. Even if the AI is doing it automatically for you, I very strongly suggest that you create your own milestones based checkpoints with your own signature. I
Hmm.
use milestone. I use word milestone. Very easy.
Hmm.
Milestone, colon, and what I'm done doing with that. Why I'm checking it in. What is the milestone that we have achieved?
Right.
Because that is my signature. So I can look into I can skip all the auto commit messages and I can look into only the ones which has a milestone keyword in it. And then I know that these are mine. And then I know that, okay, this is the version that was a good version. I want to roll back to it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
rolling back is okay. It's not because you are able to roll back and then you will be able to come to a new version very quickly. So it's okay for you to just leave a lot of code which sometimes it goes wrong, and
True.
it's okay to go back and
Yes.
come again from. So prototype it, and then once it is prototyped, again, as I said, treat it as a junior developer. Do not ask it that, okay, this entire screen is now available, code it. No,
Ah,
go ahead and just do one button click.
yeah.
And if that button click requires certain third party API documentation, again, what a lot of people I have seen doing that is they will go to that API documentation, they will get the URL of that entire API documentation, and that API documentation perhaps talks about 10 different things, 10
Hmm.
different endpoints.
Hmm.
And you believe that the AI will be able to ingest everything and will be able to figure out which one I need to use. Yes, it will perhaps be able to do that. But a
Hmm.
rather granular approach is to figure out the exact endpoint that you want to use.
Hmm.
You figure out the exact payload you want to call,
Hmm.
pass to that API,
Hmm.
and what would be the values of that. And then you create a sample. Most of the third party services that we use allow you to play with their APIs, right? They have this try now function. You do
Hmm.
that, you create a payload, you see the output, then you grab that and then you share that particular specific example of how you want to use that
Yes. Yes.
API on that button click, feed
Yes.
it back to the AI saying, this is the model that I want to use, this is the payload, this
Yes.
is the endpoint, this is how the payload will look, this is how the response will look.
Yeah.
Now code it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
work along with the AI. Let the AI, don't treat the AI as a magic box. You
Yeah.
work with it, you work it with it as if it is a junior developer. So feed it with a lot of information,
Yeah.
and then let it write the code. It will still write the code at unprecedented speeds. And even if you are doing this step by step by step, the overall output you will be able to achieve, I believe, 5 to 6, 7 times faster than traditional coding.
Interesting. That's a that's a strong number. But I am going back to my point where um, it's all about an experience because see, you have been able to, and these are all good practices which develop over your experience of building, failing, right? And you have lived that journey. So
Correct.
you're now building, bringing all your experience in the form of these best practices and prompts of how to build. Like a rookie is going to say, okay, build me an app, an Amazon app, right? And
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
my junior developers, if they say,
Do that.
I've asked one guy who's been very new and say, okay, forget about everything, wipe code the way you want. And I
Yeah.
see prompts, it'll be one-liners,
Yeah.
and they then say they produce something and say, hey, here you go, it is they're working, right?
Correct.
but
Correct.
but then many places it starts failing, and that's a recipe for disaster, right?
Correct.
So but these are freshers, they haven't lived that journey. So
Right.
think, or have you seen AI coming to rescue of that experienced engineer who can write
No.
that best practice for you?
AI can assist you with it only if you ask AI to assist you with it, right?
Exactly.
So how you traditionally, how you have been training your junior developers, you don't hire a fresher and you don't ask them to learn, I don't know what, React Native the way they want to do it.
Mm,
You will perhaps help find them a good course. You will
mm,
perhaps help them break down that course of how to create a React Native app into 10 different chapters. And then
mm,
you will first ask them to do chapter one.
mm,
And then you will ask them to come back to you and tell you what is it that they have learned. And then perhaps they have made some understanding of how React Native works, and then you correct some gaps, you fill some gaps, and then when they are ready, you then ask them to go to chapter 2. This
mm,
is the exact same traditional approach that you need to adopt even when you are asking your juniors to adopt vibe coding, right? So rather than asking them to vibe code in wild, what we need to do is we need to teach them that, okay, first of all, go ahead and vibe code in wild. Okay, do that.
mm,
Because
mm.
once you make that mistake, once you see
Yeah,
that AI will go wrong, it will go left and right, it will do
yeah,
whatever, it
yeah.
will rewrite all the functions which were working. It will sometimes rewrite the entire UI for you
Yeah.
just because you did a wrong. Let them do that, because once they do that, then
Mm,
they understand that that is not the right approach of working with it,
true.
and then you help build that right approach, wherein now you say that, okay, let's just do one step at a time, let's just build prototype with
Mm,
dummy data, let's
mm,
just do one screen, let's, once the prototype is ready, let's just commit it with our own message so that we
mm,
can roll back.
mm,
Then let's just code one function into it, and whenever we are coding that one function, let's just give it that specific document on how that function we want it to work,
mm,
and that you still need to explore.
mm,
This
mm,
is where the human AI loop
mm,
is has to be in picture. What
mm.
you cannot do is that you cannot, even when the AI is writing the code, I very strongly suggest that even when AI is splitting out the code, for example, tools like Replit, they show you the thought process of what they are doing
Yeah,
while they are doing it, and
yeah.
sometimes they continue to do that for minutes, and
Mm,
they show, okay, I'm doing this and then that, I'm thinking we should, you keep an eye on that. Don't think that whatever it is doing, it will do
it's like your
in your
Tesla.
favor.
It's like your Tesla that you have to be on the driving seat
You
and take.
have to be on the driving seat, and you have to continuously be on the you'll have to continuously monitor the output, because the moment you see that it has started thinking in some other direction that you don't want it, and it will still do that even if you control it with the prompts and with the instructions, sometimes it will still start thinking. At one point in time, I remember I was coding, vibe coding something, and it started downloading Perplexity SDK
Okay.
out of blue, because
Mm,
it thought it would be good.
mm,
I had no intention of using Perplexity SDK in the app that I was writing, but
mm,
because I was sitting there continuously monitoring,
mm,
immediately the moment it thought that I need Perplexity SDK for this, I went back and gave it one more command. Why stop? Why do
mm,
you need Perplexity SDK? Let's pause here.
mm,
Let's discuss.
mm.
Why do you need Perplexity SDK? Why are you trying to install it? What purpose does it solve? And then it gave me some answer. I said, no, 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 you are taking it wrong. This is how it should be. And
Is that
then,
course
then the
correct?
AI will correct the course.
Mm,
So the
mm.
guardrails are not only given at the first time or at
Iterative.
the start of every input. The
Mm,
guardrails have to be in the form of monitoring the continuous
mm,
output of
mm,
what AI is thinking through, what is the process as well, so that if it starts going haywire in the directions you don't want it to go, you can pause it right there before it takes
mm,
it takes a few steps, and then you need to
mm.
roll back quite a lot.
Understood. Understood. No, so I mean, it's not a magic potion which like you do and then go for a walk and
No,
yeah, that's
use AI for its speed, use AI for its learning ability, and use AI for its thinking ability, but do
right.
not trust AI blindfoldly. Don't trust that it will do. It's not a magic box.
Correct. Correct.
Use it
And
for its speed, thinking, and being able to adopt what you are feeding it with.
right.
But and also brainstorm with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes treat it as I continuously say, I always say that treat it as a junior developer, but sometimes also treat it as someone who is far better experienced than you.
Yeah,
But rather than blindfoldly believing that it is able to do what you want it to do, ask it,
yeah. Right,
do a chat, two-way chat, come up with a plan,
right.
and then keep that plan in a document somewhere in your code, and then ask it that, okay, this is the plan, and we will stick to it. Whenever
Right.
you get stuck, whenever you need a question answered, whenever you feel like what is it next that you want to do,
Mm,
most of the tools that you use today, does not matter whether you are using AI assisted coding or vibe coding, they will do a bunch of stuff, and then they will give you some 5 6 pointers that this is what next we can do, which one do you want me to pick next,
right.
right? Then what happens is it's always a dilemma of what should I do the next. But if
Mm,
you have that plan created with AI in the first step, in the initial steps, and that is also documented, then you can always go back to the plan. You can always say, go back to the plan,
mm,
check what is the last checked box, pick the next task from it, and do from there. Don't let's not do these 5 things that you are saying.
right, right. Supreet, I was curious to see something. If there is anything you could show up, I think that would be a great point where we could end our conversation. Uh,
Okay,
Always fun to see something in action.
all right. I'll show you something very quickly. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'll show you a prototype version of it. So I think I'll need access to share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do something from scratch, or do you want to see an existing application that I'm working on and how I'm working? Which?
I think we can look at an existing application because most of the times people know how to start. But yeah,
Okay.
if you could say sort of give a journey of how it came up to, for example, how did it start, right? What could be some of your templates which you could have used, right? How
Okay.
did it get
This
defined?
there's no template as such, but yeah, as I said, there are some guardrails. So
That's
scrolling
something like that.
scrolling to the top would take some time because
It's
with
100%.
vibe coding, one thing that everybody must have is patience.
True, that's there.
You can't I mean, there is unprecedented speeds, yes, but don't assume that your application will be ready in a few hours.
Yeah.
Always be prepared to spend a week
Mm,
or so to
mm,
create MVP version of an application that you can put out in the market, that
yeah.
you
Yeah.
can talk about. Have that 7 to 10 days of mind frame,
Mm,
of the time frame in your mind,
mm,
which is still amazing because
mm,
previously in the traditional approach, if you want to do the same MVP, perhaps it would have taken months,
mm.
if not weeks, right? So
Right.
so still have 7 to 10 days.
Mm,
Don't think that, okay, today is Saturday, I'll by the evening I'll have something.
yeah.
You might, but better
Mm,
is to take it step by steps. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so if you see, my first prompt here is, what I'm doing here is I'm recreating my Territas website. Okay.
Mm,
So
mm.
as I said, in Territas, we have for past 15 years, we have been a Microsoft professional, Microsoft oriented service provider,
Right.
custom development service provider. But slowly we want to change that. And we have been trying to identify what is the new niche we want to focus on. All
Mm,
right. And the new niche that we want to focus on is conversational AI,
mm,
voice AI.
mm,
So the tech will not matter. And in AI, there's a lot of things happening. We will not do that.
mm,
We will only focus on custom voice AI development, conversational AI development, where you'll be able to speak to the AI.
mm.
Now, there are three different cases. The AI can initiate the call,
Right.
outgoing, or someone is calling you and AI picks it up incoming,
Yeah.
or you have AI voice embedded on your website or product, and the AI, instead
Mm,
of a chatbot, instead
mm,
of a human answering questions on your chat, instead of
mm,
AI answering questions on your chat,
mm,
you basically speak with your
mm,
product.
mm.
So instead of a person has to go through your KB articles, they just speak to the AI that is
Yeah.
installed on your application,
Yeah.
and they guide you through step by step. They are able to see the screen and they're able to guide you through, right?
Mm,
So that is the conversational AI is what we want to focus our agency on going next. So if you
mm,
see, my first prompt is that very simple. I have an agency called Territas and we need a professional, modern, responsive marketing website for it. The goal is to offer custom AI voice development service such as these three, and tools we intend to use for providing these services are these. Let's start with the landing page first, right? I will
Okay.
restrict it saying that just do the prototype, just
Mm,
do the first page, don't
mm,
do multi pages website, don't do a lot of stuff, just do this. And
mm,
because this is a website, I'm saying that this just start with the landing pages first. Okay,
mm,
but if it is, let's say, an application that I'm developing,
mm.
let's see if I have something. Instead of if it is an application that I'm developing, instead of saying that, which one, yeah, let's try this. But going back to the first message would be very tricky here. I don't know
Okay.
if I can.
Okay. No.
It will take me a while to go back to the first message, but ideally what I do is I tell it
Mm,
that only limit yourself on the prototype, do not code anything, just do the prototype, just write the design the screens, and we will start from there
Do you
with
give
the dummy data.
some designs like say some Figma
No,
design or anything?
no,
Okay.
and no. And what I have seen is that what I've also tried, and here's a tip that works for me and perhaps for you as well, is that what I have tried is that I have gone to some other AI that for example, I use Claude 3.7. I
Mm,
use ChatGPT 3.4 Mini, a lot of different models.
yeah.
I use Manus and
Mm,
DeepSeek as well. So
mm,
sometimes what I do is I go back to these other tools and tell them that, hey, I want to create this application
mm,
and I'll be using a Replit. Now
mm.
give me a proper command for it.
Acha.
Think about how the UI should work, how the database would be, and I have played with that. And then whatever very structured prompt that this AI generate, the outside AI generate, the third party AI generates,
Mm.
I bring it to Replit, and Replit will always create something that I hate. I have seen that if you are using Replit, I've used why I'm keep saying Replit is I've used Replit a lot more than Lovable, at least for vibe coding.
Mm.
Okay, what I seen that with Replit, rather than you trying to give it detailed instructions of how you want the UI to be,
Right.
just let it know what the business case is, who the users are,
Mm, mm.
and more often than not it is able to create a beautiful UI in the first go.
Okay.
And then you work with it, then you introduce the changes that you want, the colors that you want, the change, the layout that you want, the card layout, the animation, the subtle and micro animations, whatever you want, then you keep introducing those.
Mm, mm.
And then here comes the very fun part. Once you are done with all of that, so once you are done with all of that, what I do is this, and this is something very new that I have realized. Okay,
Mm,
so for example, let me go back a little. I started from saying that I want this website, and then the other thing that I do is I feedback a lot of things. So rather than saying that this is not working, see, I point it to specific section,
mm, mm, mm,
and I
mm,
saying that change this specific section. So you
mm,
can give feedback via specific sections. You can give it feedback via using images. You
mm,
can
mm,
give it feedback via giving detailed observations, saying
mm,
that my observation is this is how it is working and this is how it should work. You give it the detailed bullet points,
mm.
and then that adopts to that as well. So yeah, so basically we are in experts in using this. So what see, initially what it did is it shows all of them as my customers
Mm.
instead of the tools and services. So I
Yeah.
said this is misleading, right?
Mm, mm, mm,
Don't change the hero text. I like that.
mm,
Also tell it what you don't want it to change.
mm,
Okay. Then there is one more thing that you can do is you can always add this one line to each of your prompts.
mm.
Do not change 95% of the design and the code we have in place unless you are 100% confident about it.
Mm.
And if you have questions, ask before changing anything. So if you add this line, then the AI always works on the 5%
Mm.
that you want it to work on, and it
Mm.
will not touch the design and the code and the rest of the 95%. It will not do that. Always add that line. Okay.
That's one of the biggest scare, because what whenever say I have also personally tried to develop something, it starts changing from different places. It will start removing code and then start adding something.
Yeah.
So even on the design side, it takes its own decisions at times. So it
So
really
if
is.
you have worked to a point where you have started liking something that it
Mm,
has produced, first
mm,
of all, do your own check-in in
mm,
GitHub. Link to GitHub, commit, check-in.
right.
The second thing is, always add this in your prompt that do not change 95% of the code or the design that we have created so far
Mm,
unless you are 100% confident on it. If you are not 100% confident, ask questions and I will help you answer.
mm,
Always add that one line. Does
mm.
not matter whatever you are asking it to do, just copy paste that one line.
Yeah,
That way what happens is it always focuses on that 5% that it needs to change, so it
true.
does not vary a lot. And then one thing that I have very recently done is that I was creating this website. Okay, so let me show you. Can I show you this? Yeah. So I created this new website, you see,
Mm,
and this is how it came up with. Okay, and I put a lot of effort. This was like 2 days of work.
mm,
Okay, very clean, a lot of stuff in there,
mm.
and I let it be there because I love with what
I got you.
take.
Great, Supreet. I think it was a conversation which I didn't want to end, because uh, there is so much to play and there is so much to experiment with. And I think I'll try to summarize some of my learnings which I took away from this. One is, which you rightly mentioned, patience is very much needed, and you cannot take this as a magic wand which you would just say, give me something and it produces like the genie. So
Correct.
it has to be considered like you would consider a junior developer who knows, he's a very smart junior, right?
Yes.
Who knows a lot of things, but you need to give that guidance to get what you want.
Correct.
Do it slowly in your first version. Do it iteratively, and the experience brings a lot of value here. That I mean, the more experienced you are, the better you could do it, the faster you could do it, the earlier you could do it, because you have there are some principles which you have learned, some design principles, some implementation principles. You have
That definitely helps.
Yeah, because you've done it the hard way, and the
Correct.
prompt you're writing and a prompt which a fresher would write, it will make a huge difference in the outcome that gets produced, right?
There's definitely a very good chance of that. So prompt sharing is recommended.
Definitely. And you maintain your versioning. So just I think a question, when you share about this, say you developed some prompts and then you have other engineers in your team who are also building prompts. How do you kind of standardize it, bring it together? Is there a sort of a crowdsourcing we do, or like brainstorming we do? Like how do we
we
improve upon?
usually we have not started doing this a lot in practice right now because we are still in the stages where individuals in our team are at
Ah,
different levels of
everybody.
understanding how to work with AI.
Yeah,
As I
yeah.
said, some people who are technical are playing with assisted AI more than vibe coding.
Mm,
Others who are coming from in my team who are HR operational background, I have started asking them all to code using vibe coding. They
mm,
are doing whatever they want to do. They are in the version ones right now, so they
right.
make a lot of mistake. They learn, they create, build apps for their own usage. Once it is all done, what we have started doing nowadays for past 1 week or so is that we have started putting our best prompts in one Slack channel,
Mm,
and everybody who is doing vibe coding or who is using this AI assisted coding, they are a part of that Slack channel. Everybody is invited to write, suggest, share feedback, whatever they want. This is basically a channel for sharing knowledge about how to work with AI as a coder or as a non-coder.
mm,
So prompt goes in there, the best practices, the tips, everything is being accumulated there for everyone else to go through it. That's how we are sharing it, very unstructured way of doing it right now.
Yes.
but I think it is helping us a lot because we don't know how to structure it right now.
True, true, true. The same thing works at in our team, that because we have a lot of people who are developing a lot of content. We develop a lot of content, right? Technical content of learning something, learn technology. Sometimes some prompts produces a beautiful outcome because say we look at things as teachers, right? You have been a teacher, so you know that how do you make people learn something? So how do you make it engaging, exciting? Sometimes it
Correct,
will use a lot of content, lot of text, lot of explanations, but then it will be too overwhelming, say for a beginner who wants to learn things. So you would
correct,
then you'll have to then change the prompt, and then when we share these prompts with each other, some person says that, hey, it didn't click to me earlier. So, oh nice, you used some example. Oh nice,
exactly,
actually showed them the JSON format in which it has to produce.
correct.
So these
Or
small
you gave it the payload, API payload that it should
exactly.
use rather than just giving it the generic
Yeah.
URL documentation.
So, I mean, one thing which happens is that you are always surprised to see that what people are able to do in the end and what they're able to produce in a completely naive way. It's like as I said, like it's an open field. Go play and see, figure it out, and come back with what your learnings. I think that's
Yes, and share whatever you are learning, whatever the best practices you are just putting it together, share it in a common channel, a common
definitely,
place for everybody else to see. And that's
definitely.
how it starts. And later on, maybe you can structure it better.
Definitely. So I think there's a lot to take away, and I think the biggest shift which developers can bring is to bring a mindset shift where one of my mentors, he's a very seasoned engineer. He says that don't love your code, and now no any longer, right?
Yeah,
Don't love it any longer. It has been commoditized already.
correct.
So, what you should love is the whole process of building and iteratively achieving an outcome which you love, and kind
Want
of
to achieve.
exactly. And then, like you one thing also you nicely rightly said that okay, bring multiple AIs into picture, kind of put something from one AI, put into other, right? So I
And
think
sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
it doesn't also. It takes the other way also.
Yes, yes. So sometimes you'll need to understand which is good for what. As I said, if I go to other tools and ask it to write a good prompt for Replit and bring that prompt to Replit, it fails
Hmm.
miserably. I have tried that enough number of times that now I know for sure that Replit does not like prompts written by other AIs.
True,
You
true.
give it the structure, what you want to do, the business logic, and it will do rather better job.
So, amongst a closing question, amongst all the different AIs and the coding tools, support gen, which I've worked with, what's your personal favorite?
Replit is my the number one favorite right now because I have been a backend developer my entire life. I have never been a front end developer except for technologies where in Silverlight and XAML was involved, which I was working with. I've never been able to write HTML, React, Angular code for the longest period of my time. I
Hmm.
understand how that code works. I can look into the Angular code and React code and make sense of how it's working. But if you ask me to write it manually, I'll take ages.
Yeah.
Although I think I have um, a design element in what I need and how it should look, but I can't design. I'm
Yeah.
not a designer.
Yeah.
But with Replit like tools, now I am the designer. Now I am the front end developer. Now I am the back end developer,
Yeah.
and the liberty of being able to generate something end to end, right from design to development to production to deployment, all by my own without even having to go back to my team is absolutely
That's a
magical to me.
that's a superpower, and
That's a
you
superpower.
that's and you would always want to do that, right? You would
Yes,
always want to if this is what I want to build, I want to have full control from the design aspect, because then a lot of thing is lost in communication to team, then there's
correct,
activation happening, right?
correct.
So and
Which is where I also said that you asked one very good question, like what is the team structure looks like in this new era. There's no team structure, everybody's on their own
yeah.
unless you need to put them together for a larger
Mm,
product that you are designing or developing, in
mm,
which case a lot of sharing has to happen, but in
mm,
which case a lot of guardrails also has to happen so that nobody is making a change that is stepping onto someone else's work.
mm, true, true. Got it. Awesome. Awesome, Supreet. I think it was an amazing conversation, and I love what you're doing, and I uh, love to apply whatever many suggestions which you gave personally and in my team. And yeah, let's keep sharing, and let's see how this vibe coding produces, what it produces, and
I'm
what's next.
pretty confident that the next product that we both will be building that will bring in the new customers would perhaps be 50%, say 70% even by coded. 30% has to be manual.
Very much, very much. Looking forward. Thanks a lot,
Looking
Supreet, for
forward.
your time. It was
Thanks
a
a lot, Amit. Thank
take
you
care.
once again
Bye-bye.
for having me. See ya.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.